He was a self-made man, generous, warm, and full of life. A man who had built an empire with his bare hands, helped hundreds of people, and loved deeply. He did not die in a war or a random accident. He died slowly over several days, in his own bed, poisoned by the one person who was supposed to love him most. And she almost got away with it. This is the story of Rajan Iyer, a story that will make you question everything you think you know about trust, love, and the lengths some people will go to for money. Welcome to Exposed True Crime Stories. If you believe every voice deserves to be heard and every truth deserves to come to light, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell, because we are just getting started. Rajan Iyer was born in 1956 in the city of Pune, Maharashtra, a place alive with energy, intellect, and ambition. The son of a schoolteacher and a textile merchant, Rajan grew up in a household where hard work was not just expected, it was sacred. From a young age, Rajan had a gift for numbers. He studied accounting and business management, graduating near the top of his class. But it was not a desk or a ledger that truly lit him up inside. It was people. He loved helping them. He loved watching them grow. By his early 30s, Rajan had built a thriving physiotherapy and sports rehabilitation clinic in Mumbai. It became one of the most respected practices in the city, serving professional athletes and everyday people alike. When he was just 44 years old, he sold the business for a sum that most people could not dream of, and retired early. But retirement for Rajan did not mean stopping. He spent years mentoring young entrepreneurs, sitting with them over chai, writing out business plans on napkins, and opening doors he had spent a lifetime building. Dozens of young business owners would later say that Rajan Iyer changed the entire course of their lives. He was charming. He laughed loudly. He was the kind of man who remembered your name, your children's names, and the name of your dog. He had never been blessed with children of his own, but he adored his nieces and nephews as if they were his entire world. His love life, however, had never been simple. He had been married before, a couple of painful chapters that left him bruised but never bitter. He still believed in love. That belief would eventually cost him everything. Darla June Whitfield was born in 1969 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the kind of southern city that carries equal parts beauty and secrets in the thick summer air. She grew up in a modest home on the outskirts of town, the middle child of 5, in a family that struggled but got by. Darla was smart. She trained as a nurse, and by all outward appearances, she was a devoted healthcare worker. For years, she worked in veterans' medical facilities, tending to patients with the kind of warmth that made people feel they were in safe hands. She spoke softly, smiled easily, and never seemed like someone who could cause harm. People who knew her in passing called her sweet, kind-hearted, the sort of woman you would want looking after your sick father. But behind that soft drawl and easy smile, something else lived. A hunger, a calculating patience. And when Darla met Rajan Iyer on an online dating platform in 2011, she found exactly what she had been looking for. Rajan, still open-hearted despite his past, was drawn to her. She seemed caring and steady. She had a medical background, just like the kind of nurturing presence he had always been missing. He fell for her quickly and deeply. In March 2014, they were married. After their wedding, Rajan and Darla settled into what looked from the outside like an ideal life. They moved into a sprawling waterfront property in Goa, one of India's most breathtaking coastal destinations. A grand colonial-style home with wide verandas, bougainvillea climbing the walls, and the Arabian Sea glittering just beyond the garden. Their home was the kind of place that made visitors stop and stare. Rajan had put enormous care into it. Custom woodwork, stone fountains, a garden he tended himself in the early mornings. It was not just a house. It was a reflection of everything he had built and everything he still hoped for. Darla quickly became close to Rajan's family. His sister Sunita, his nephew Dev, and the circle of lifelong friends who had known Rajan since his Pune days all welcomed her warmly. She fit in, or seemed to. She asked the right questions. She laughed at the right moments. She said she loved him. There were no obvious fractures, no raised voices at family gatherings. No warnings that anyone could point to later and say, "There, that was the sign." But Darla would later tell a very different story of what their marriage looked like behind those closed doors. A story only she could tell, and that almost no one who knew Rajan would believe. July 14, 2019. A hot and heavy afternoon in Goa. Outside, the sea was flat and quiet. The bougainvillea barely moved. Inside, at the base of the grand main staircase, Rajan Iyer lay still. Completely still. Darla burst through the front door and into the lane outside, frantically waving down a man passing by on a motorcycle. Her voice was broken, her words stumbling over each other. Her husband needed help. "Call someone, please." The man called emergency services immediately. Darla, without waiting, rushed to a neighbor's house. She did not go back inside. When rescue workers arrived and entered the home, they followed the corridor to where Rajan lay at the bottom of the staircase. A white sheet pulled over him. He was already gone. Darla told the police that Rajan had been suffering from severe vertigo for several days. He had been unable to leave the bed, she said. She had gone out to tend to the garden that morning, for nearly 2 hours, and when she came back in, she found him at the foot of the stairs. The officers on the scene noted Rajan's age, his prior health history. He had suffered decompression sickness years ago during a diving trip and had never fully recovered, and the appearance of the scene. To most of them, it looked like a tragic accident. A sick man who had tried to get up and fallen. But not everyone in that house that afternoon was willing to close the case so quickly. Dev Iyer, Rajan's nephew and a law enforcement officer from a neighboring district, arrived at the house within hours of hearing the news. He had grown up watching his uncle with nothing short of reverence. Rajan had been at every school function, every birthday, every hard moment. He was the person Dev called when he needed advice. He was not just an uncle. He was a foundation. And something about what Dev saw that afternoon did not sit right. First, the staircase. There was a long fabric runner laid across the steps. It was perfectly straight, undisturbed. If a man of Rajan's size had fallen and tumbled down those stairs, the runner would have shifted, bunched, slid. It had not moved at all. Second, Rajan's body showed none of the bruising or physical trauma that a fall down a full staircase would produce. Dev had seen enough accident scenes in his career to know what a fall looked like. Third, the moment that made him go cold, Darla was pushing hard, right there on the day of Rajan's death, for immediate cremation. The deputy coroner gently explained that an autopsy could tell them exactly what happened and bring the family peace. Darla refused. She did not want an autopsy. She wanted cremation. That evening. Her reason? She said Rajan had been struggling with substance abuse, and she did not want his reputation ruined. But everyone who loved Rajan knew that was not true. He enjoyed a drink occasionally, the occasional social smoke. He was not an addict. Dev also noticed that Rajan's mobile phone was nowhere in the house. Rajan never went anywhere without it. They searched every room, every drawer. It was gone. And then Dev walked into the master bedroom. He stood in the doorway for a long moment and said nothing. The bed was soaked. The room had not been cared for. For a woman who had spent her career as a nurse, a woman trained to recognize the most basic needs of a bedridden patient, the state of that room told a terrible story. Rajan had been lying there, sick and helpless, and no one had changed his sheets. No one had cleaned the room. No one had truly been caring for him at all. Dev called Rajan's other nephew Anand, despite Darla strongly insisting he should not. Anand had a right to know. Dev made the call anyway. When Anand arrived and sat down with Darla to discuss the estate, he asked to see Rajan's will. He had personally witnessed Rajan signing it years earlier. He knew it existed. Darla told him there was no will. Anand pressed. He was certain. Eventually, the truth surfaced. Darla had burned it. She had set fire to the will and the legal documents connected to it, ensuring that under the law, as his surviving spouse, she would inherit everything Rajan had built across his entire life. Less than 2 weeks after Rajan died, his family arrived for a small memorial gathering and found something that stopped them cold. Rajan's belongings were already packed into boxes. His clothes, his personal items, the small mementos of a life lived richly, all of it boxed and stacked. Darla was telling people to take whatever they wanted. Whatever remained, she said, was going to the dump. His family stood there, still raw with grief, and watched the traces of Rajan Iyer being erased. This was not the behavior of a grieving wife. Dev and Anand had seen enough. Without telling Darla, they formally requested an independent autopsy and full toxicology report from the forensic authorities. It was the most important decision they would ever make. The forensic results came back, and they were devastating. Rajan Iyer had been poisoned. His body contained critically high levels of tetrahydrozoline, the active compound found in common over-the-counter eye drops used to reduce redness. In the eyes, it is harmless, but swallowed in any meaningful quantity, tetrahydrozoline is a killer. It constricts the blood vessels, disrupts the nervous system, and in large enough doses, stops the breathing entirely. It has no color, no smell, no taste. Dissolved into a drink, it is completely invisible. In small quantities, it produces vomiting, dizziness, and severe weakness, symptoms that look to the untrained eye exactly like vertigo. On August 15, 2019, Darla Whitfield was brought in for questioning. Investigators told her she was not yet under suspicion. What she did not know was that CBI officers and local detectives were listening from the next room. Darla played the part of a confused and grieving widow at first. But the moment investigators mentioned tetrahydrozoline, she stopped. She looked at them, and she said quietly and immediately the brand name of the eye drops. She knew exactly what it was. She had not had to think about it for even a second. When pressed, she offered her first explanation. She claimed Rajan had been adding eye drops to his own morning coffee as a remedy for stomach trouble. Investigators were unmoved. There is no world in which a man reaches for an eye drop bottle to treat an upset stomach when safe, widely available remedies are sold at every pharmacy. When that story collapsed, Darla changed her account entirely. Suddenly Rajan became someone unrecognizable, controlling, verbally abusive, erratic. The devoted husband became the monster. But the toxicology report had already shown no evidence of heavy drug use. The investigators who reached out to Rajan's family, his friends, his former business associates, not one person had ever witnessed a single moment of what Darla was now describing. Darla ended the interview and drove home, unaware that she was being followed. Shortly after arriving home, she sat down with investigators again, and she confessed. Darla told investigators that she had poured an entire bottle of eye drops into Rajan's drinking water. She said she had not meant to kill him. She only wanted to make him sick for a day or two. To get some peace, she said. To have a break from what she called emotional abuse. But the forensic evidence told the full story, and it was far worse than a single bottle poured in anger. Detectives reconstructed the timeline carefully. Rajan had been bedridden for days before he died, suffering from what Darla kept calling vertigo. The investigators concluded that she had been gradually administering tetrahydrozoline over multiple days, adjusting the amounts, observing the effects, waiting. By the third day, she had given him enough to kill him. And while he lay dying, she had taken his phone and disposed of it. Investigators believe it was thrown into the sea, ensuring that in his final hours, when he may have been too weak to move or speak, there was no way for him to call for help. No way to reach Dev. No way to reach Anand. No way to reach Sunita, who had been trying unsuccessfully for days to get through to her brother and had felt a creeping dread she could not explain. Then there was something else Darla admitted, something from 2 years earlier that turned the stomach of every investigator in that room. 2 years before Rajan's death, Darla had called emergency services to report what she described as a terrible accident. She said she had been loading a crossbow one night when it accidentally discharged and struck Rajan in the back of the head while he slept. Authorities at the time accepted her account. Rajan himself, who could not imagine his wife having any reason to want him dead, did not push back. Now, sitting in that room in 2019, Darla admitted the truth. It was not an accident. She had deliberately aimed the crossbow at her husband while he slept. She said she had done it because she was frightened of him, because she had no other way out. Rajan Iyer had survived his wife's first attempt on his life. He had not survived the second. In the days following her confession, Darla Whitfield attempted to take her own life. She was found in time by a neighbor and survived. On September 3, 2019, she was formally arrested and charged with murder. At trial, prosecutors painted a precise and painful picture. This was not a crime of sudden emotion or fractured thinking. It was deliberate, methodical, executed over days. Darla had destroyed Rajan's will to ensure she inherited everything. She had isolated him, removed his phone, withheld care while he suffered, and poisoned him gradually until his body gave out. The defense pointed to a difficult childhood, claimed trauma and fear. The judge was not persuaded. Darla June Whitfield was sentenced to 28 years in prison. In the courtroom, Rajan's sister Sunita spoke through tears. She told the judge, and through him told the world, that her brother had been one of the most genuinely good people she had ever known. A man who helped strangers. A man who celebrated other people's victories louder than his own. A man who still believed, right up until the end, that the person beside him was who she said she was. Rajan's case, alongside a similar poisoning that came to light in the same region just weeks later, pushed forensic authorities across multiple states to overhaul their toxicology protocols. Tetrahydrozoline is now a standard part of screening in suspicious death investigations. A change that Rajan's family fought for, loudly and relentlessly, even in the deepest parts of their grief. Dev Iyer, the nephew who noticed the undisturbed stair runner, the missing phone, the neglected room, the man who refused to look away, carries the weight of that week for the rest of his life. He has said in interviews since that he does not feel like a hero. He feels like a man who loved his uncle and would not let the truth be buried with him. Rajan Iyer deserved better. He deserved someone who would protect him the way he had always protected everyone around him. He deserved to die at peace, surrounded by the people who loved him, at the end of a long and full life, not alone in a dark room, reaching for a phone that was no longer there. What happened to Rajan is not just a crime story. It is a warning about how completely ordinary evil can look, how it can sit across from you at a dinner table, laugh at your jokes, hold your hand in public and still be planning your end. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling. Ask questions. Do not be afraid to look harder. And to those who knew Rajan Iyer, to Sunita, to Dev, to Anand, to the young entrepreneurs whose businesses still bear the quiet fingerprints of his advice, he was not forgotten. He was fought for, and in the end, the truth came out. Thank you for watching Exposed True Crime Stories. If the story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that ordinary people deserve extraordinary justice, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel so you never miss a story. Every case we cover is a real person. Every name matters. Turn on the notification bell and stay with us, because there are more stories that deserve to be told. Stay safe, and we will see you in the next one.